Now let's talk a bit more about the restructuring debate and the APC's recommendations. I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by the Executive Director, Partners for Electoral Reform, Mr. Wangu from Abuja. Thanks a lot for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening. If you look at the committee's mandate, they were supposed to distill the true intent and the definition of true federalism, let's put it that way, as promised in their campaign as well. How would you describe their attempts to define restructuring or true federalism as they've put it?
Well, my sense is that the conversation and eventually what came out from the report seems to have been lifted verbatim from the 2014 confab report. And for me, my worry is that a party that has majority in the National Assembly have no business setting up committees to do what majority of Nigerians are already determined that is one way that we could make life a little much more bearable for majority of the citizens. And what are those things? The recommendations that they made is take some things out of the exclusive list and put them in the current list so that both the state and the federal can respond to those issues. And what are those? They talked about mining, they talked about labor issues, they talked about issues around drugs, narcotics, psychedelic drugs, and all of that. Those don't require it doesn't require a panel to sit to be able to do that. We thought that we have a National Assembly that has responsibility to make law for the good governance of the country. Ordinarily, that is what this constitutional amendment process, the endless constitutional amendment process that we have had, should be dealing with. It should be able to do that without getting any, especially when they have majority in the parliament.
But sorry, let me just ask you. Sorry, if I can just ask you briefly before you go on. You're alleging that this is something that you think was lifted from the 2014 reports, the confab report. But if you look through some of the recommendations they have there, they did state that they had gone through a number of reports, a number of recommendations to come up with what they have now. So they said they looked through different reports and considerations, and they've done some more research, and that's why you see what you see now. So are you still insisting that there's nothing new about
the outcome of the outcome of their research did not bring anything novel other than what is commonplace and what is already in the marketplace. But let's not dwell essentially on whether they were taken from other reports or not. What is important is that these are recommendations that are already on ground. But we need to take this a notch higher and say, for instance, what is it that we cannot legislate for the poor? Legislate for the majority of Nigerian citizens who have no tribal marks. The Chapter 2 of our Constitution restructures the country. If it were the only thing that we have as our Constitution, where it talks about government, its responsibility of the state to abolish all corrupt practices, where it talks about it is the responsibility of the government to provide for security and welfare of citizens, where it talks about the educational, this thing where it talks about providing free and compulsory education from university, from primary school to university. What happened is that in that Chapter 2, they said when practicable. All that you need to lift some of these issues is to just take out that when practicable. My sense is that we like to waste our time so much. The National Assembly has responsibility to make these laws, factor some of these things that are already in those reports, and infuse them into the constitutional amendment process that we have, and then some of these heat will just go off.
All right, Executive Director, Partners for Electoral Reforms, Wangu. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on the news at 10 tonight.